Dead Rising is one of the best games that Capcom has ever made. I was absolutely obsessed with this game back in the Xbox 360 era, and now that we're getting a remaster of the game, it's gotten me really excited, but there are also questions and concerns that I have. The game is being remastered/remade using the RE engine, which is an extremely powerful engine that Capcom have been using since Resident Evil 7. And because the game is being rebuilt in this engine, the game is going to have a very different look compared to the original. Now, I've already seen people talking about Frank West's redesign, and I have to say, I'm not overly fond of the way that he looks. He's already been remade in Dead Rising 2 Off the Record and Dead Rising 4, but it feels as though they've made him look older in this game, and I don't know, I just prefer the way that he looks in the original 2006 game. But you know what's really shady to me? The fact that you can actually unlock his original look from the 2006 original of Dead Rising if you pre-order the game. So Capcom know that people love that original design of Frank, and they know that people want to see that. So that is a little bit sketchy to me. I usually don't care that much about character appearances, but if you are redesigning a classic character, I can't help but compare it to the original. There's been a little bit of controversy surrounding a redesign of another character from the game. One of the boss battles is a butcher called Larry, and in the original game he's kind of depicted as sort of a racist stereotype of a Chinese butcher, and that's not great, to be honest, and Capcom are likely aware of this, which is why they've decided to completely change the look of this character. A lot of people seem to be very, very upset about this change, and I have to be honest, my question to that would be, why are you this attached to a kind of dodgy depiction of a Chinese person? I don't know why you would want to keep that as badly as you do. But at the same time, I understand that people want a remaster or a remake of a game to keep everything the way that it was in the original. Other characters such as Jesse, Brad, and Isabella look about as I'd expect them to, just with much, much better character models and textures. But on the subject of visuals, I think that the mall looks absolutely incredible so far from what we've been shown for the remaster. The lighting is beautiful, the environment looks very, very high fidelity, and the zombies have a much higher level of detail than they did in the original. Now, the zombies did look very, very impressive for their time, and they had a nice amount of variation, but now we have a much more powerful game engine that is rendering the shopping mall and all of these zombies. Although the remaster does look much higher fidelity than the original Dead Rising looks great even now. It's a very sharp, pristine looking game. It's always had this very clean look to it. I'm playing on the PC version, but even the original 360 version had a very kind of sharp, very clean, refined look to it. It was just a very impressive looking game for its time. Not to mention the amount of zombies that were on screen is absolutely insane that a game from 2006 looked as good as it did and had that amount of characters on screen at one time. The general gameplay of the remaster looks about the same as the original. The melee combat looks very similar, throwing weapons at zombies looks very similar, and that's really what you want. However, I will say the controls in the original Dead Rising are quite clunky and a bit stiff, so I hope that the controls have been refined a bit. This is one of my concerns for the remaster, if you are going to improve the gameplay in some ways. Interestingly, the gunplay appears to have been improved in the remake or the remaster, as you're now able to move whilst aiming and shooting, which is a huge improvement over the original game, because I kind of found the gunplay to be very, very stiff. It's not that great firing guns in the original, so the gunplay has been improved here. I just hope that the controls for movement and for melee have been tightened up a bit in the remake. Frank did feel kind of cumbersome to control in the original, especially if you're trying to climb up over small obstacles, or if you're carrying a survivor, or a survivor is following you, and you're trying to kind of get around these kind of obstacles in the environment. It felt a bit jank to try to get around those things, so hopefully the traversal and the movement is a bit better. Dead Rising 2 already improved upon the controls from the first Dead Rising, and even Dead Rising 2 had better gunplay, so it's not unreasonable to expect improvements to the controls in this way. The AI in the original Dead Rising, to be completely honest, was absolutely terrible. A huge mechanic of the game is rescuing survivors in the shopping mall, taking them back to the safe room. The pathfinding for the AI is absolutely abysmal, and even the AI during boss battles is quite broken. You see bosses getting caught and stuck on the environment and things like that happening. I've actually been able to cheese some of the bosses when they've become stuck on the environment in the original. While I still love Dead Rising despite its jankiness, I am hoping for improvements in the remaster. Transporting survivors back to the safe house has already been addressed, as they've now added a staircase, which is a huge improvement over the original. This is already an objective improvement. This is not even up for debate or discussion. A stairwell has been added to the ventilation where Frank is taking the survivors, so they will now be able to follow you without getting stuck or getting caught on the climbable surface. The remaster has added an autosave feature, and I'm not sure how I feel about this, because in the original game, in order to save your progress, you needed to head to a safe room or a safe bathroom in order to save the game. Now, because of this, you had to very carefully plan your trips across the mall, and if you died on the way there, then you would lose all of the progress that you'd made. And I actually really love this about the original, because it was always a risk to venture out into the mall, and you had to make sure you made it back in time to a safe location so you can save the game. I really, really like this in the original, and this might be completely missing with the addition of an autosave. So I'm not entirely sold on this design decision. I'm not feeling too confident about that, but I will see if it's able to be turned off or if it does actually work with the new rework of the game. Capcom have also decided to add the ability to speed up time in order to start the next case. In the original game, you had to wait in-game time for the next case to start, and the game does this to encourage you to go out and explore and do side missions or save survivors whilst you're waiting for the next case mission to begin. In the remake, now that you can skip time in order to start the next case, again, I'm not sure how I feel about this, because it takes away from the point of why you had to wait for the next mission in the first place, which, as I say, was to encourage you to explore. For those people who do want to kind of get on with the game and not explore so much, then I suppose it's good for that, for skipping time to start the next mission, but I'm not really a fan of that. It'll be very useful for speedrunners, of course, because they won't have to wait around anymore, but aside from that, I probably won't be using this feature, because I like waiting around and doing my own thing until the next mission starts. It actually is quite an important element of the game, because this game is so focused around time, and it's focused around allocating your time, using your time as a resource. And I don't think that the time limit gameplay is going to be removed or changed very much in the remaster, because that is the core integral part of this game. However, the autosave system does take away from that a bit. In regards to the game's difficulty, I imagine the game will be as difficult as it was in the original. If you're a low level, then you will get absolutely pasted by all of the bosses until you've leveled up and become stronger. I imagine this gameplay loop will remain unchanged in the remaster. The objective arrow that points in the direction of your currently selected mission has been removed in favour of a compass. I'm not hugely bothered by this, but I know that some people prefer the objective arrow. Sometimes the arrow in the original pointed in awkward directions that weren't reflective of where you were supposed to go, so the compass might mitigate this a bit. The pause menu map has also been pretty vastly improved, which is good to see. The map wasn't terrible in the original game, but it's definitely been improved here, as it's much clearer to select the different shops and see exactly where it is you're going. I do wonder if they'll be able to completely remove loading screens in this game and make them all one big seamless location, because that would be incredibly impressive if they did, and I think that would be an objective improvement over the original, because there were a lot of load screens in between each of the environments that you go to. So what do I think of the Dead Rising Remaster? I think it looks great, to be honest. It's an overhaul of a classic beloved game, and whilst it has some questionable design choices in my opinion, hopefully they can be turned off or disabled for veteran players of the series. I think the game looks fantastic. There are improvements to combat in regards to gunplay, which I'm very pleased to see, and the melee combat looks as satisfying as it was in the original. What do you guys think of the game? Do let me know in the comments. What do you think of the autosave system? What do you think of the improved gunplay? What about skipping time? Let me know how you feel about each of the features and systems that have been changed up in this game and the characters. And that's all from me. Brad out.